You ever sit down to play a new game thinking, hey, I'll just try it for 10 minutes, and then suddenly it's 3 a.m., your pizza's cold, and your life is now divided into before this game and after this game? Yeah, this video is all about those games. The ones that don't politely tap you on the shoulder, they full-on grab you by the hoodie and yell, let's go on an adventure, champ. You boot them up for a quick taste, and before you even hit the pause menu, you're deep in the trenches of an alien invasion, a heartfelt story, or crafting a fortress because nighttime is scary and you forgot to build a door. Again. And the best part, these games don't wait for permission. They skip the awkward small talk and just get right to the good stuff. Some pull you in with jaw-dropping intros, others with chaos, mystery, or just plain fun. But all of them, they hook you before you even realize what's happening. So whether you're a casual player, a hardcore completionist, or just someone with a serious backlog problem, yeah, same here. Buckle up, because we're diving into 20 games that waste no time stealing your heart, frying your brain, and maybe ruining your sleep schedule a little. Let's jump in. You've been warned. From the second Link Awakens in Breath of the Wild, this open-world adventure on Nintendo Switch sinks its claws in. There's no lengthy tutorial. You step out of the Shrine of Resurrection and bam! A gorgeous vista of Hyrule spreads out before you. I remember just standing there, jaw on the floor, thinking, so, I can go anywhere I see? The game whispers, yes! Within minutes, I was sprinting off the trail, chasing every glowing bug and mysterious ruin in sight. Early on, I accidentally wandered into a camp of bokoblins, armed with nothing but a tree branch. It was chaotic, it was hilarious, and it taught me the game's rules in the most fun way possible, and by letting me mess up and try again. I felt the thrill of discovering things for myself. Climbing a random cliff just to see the view? Totally did that. Finding out metal weapons attract lightning the hard way? Yup, did that too in the first hour. The world doesn't just invite you in, it grabs you by the hand, or maybe the glider, and yanks you into adventure. The personal freedom and sense of exploration had me grinning like a kid. No lie, I spent my first session just roaming the Great Plateau, half forgetting there was a main quest at all. And when I finally triggered that cutscene with the old man revealing he was the Lost King, mind blown. If Breath of the Wild teaches one thing in its opening, it's this. Expect the unexpected. Talk about a wild start. How many games start with you bleeding and dangling off a cliff? Uncharted 2 does, and it's one heck of a hook. This cinematic action adventure on PS3 literally opens with Nathan Drake regaining consciousness in a wrecked train hanging over a snowy abyss. The game doesn't politely ask for your attention, it demands it. I remember my heart skipping a beat as I realized I had to climb, injured and all, up through the train cars before they plummet into the void. Snow is falling, metal is creaking, Drake is muttering, "This is not good." Talk about an understatement. I was right there with him, letting out a breath only when he finally reached solid ground. And get this, that's just the intro before the title card. Uncharted 2 hooked me by dropping me into a pulse-pounding scenario in medias res, and then cleverly rewinding to explain how Nate got into that mess. But after that opening, I was already sold. I needed to know everything: who sabotaged him, what they were after, and how on earth he would survive next. The early game smoothly transitions from that cliffhanger to a flashback of Nate planning a heist in sunny Istanbul, which only made me appreciate the contrast. One minute you're freezing on a mountain, the next you're bantering with Sully over drinks. The roller coaster had well and truly begun. The combination of Hollywood-level set pieces and Nate's charming commentary made it feel like I was playing an interactive blockbuster. By the time I was back to the train sequence later on, fully armed and in the thick of it, I realized my palms had been sweating since minute 1. Uncharted 2 doesn't just start with a bang, it starts with you dangling by a thread. And I was happily hanging on for dear life right alongside Nate. It's not often a game makes you laugh and gasp within the first 5 minutes, but Undertale isn't just any game. This indie RPG, PC, starts off innocently enough. You, a human child, fall into the underground, a realm of monsters. The first character you meet is Flowey, a little talking flower with a big smile. Howdy! He greets you, teaching the basics and offering friendliness pellets. Cute, right? I remember thinking, oh, what a charming little tutorial. And then the little punk tries to murder you. Plot twist. Flowey's face turns into nightmare fuel and he attacks, nearly taking you out in the tutorial. I was simultaneously horrified and cackling at how absurd and brilliant that was. Saved in the nick of time by a motherly goat lady named Toriel, I sat there grinning ear to ear. In minutes, Undertale had upended my expectations and I absolutely needed to see where this was going. The early moments keep playing with your heart. Toriel is so kind and welcoming, it's hard not to feel warm and fuzzy, especially after almost becoming plant food. As I solved a few light puzzles in the ruins and read the quirky signpost, "Who leaves cheese out for a mouse?" Undertale does, I realized the game's humor was exactly my style. It talks to you, the player, in clever little asides, making you feel like part of an inside joke. And the music. The gentle ruins theme already had me hooked, creating a cozy yet mysterious vibe that pulled me in further. By the time I encountered my first goofy skeleton friend, oh hey Sans, not long after, I was utterly smitten. Undertale's opening moves, from Flowey's fake friendliness to Toriel's genuine care, hooked me in a way I never saw coming. It's like the game winked and said, trust me, you have no idea what you're in for. And boy, were they right. I dove in expecting a fun little retro-style adventure. I emerged minutes later completely enchanted and ready to face whatever this weird, wonderful world would throw at me next. That's Undertale for you. Killer opening and all. A plane crash, a mysterious lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, and not a soul in sight. Bioshock had me at hello, or rather at would you kindly. This FPS adventure on PC and consoles wastes no time pulling you under its spell. I remember crawling out of the wreckage and swimming through burning debris toward that looming lighthouse. Inside, there's that huge banner, no gods or king, only man. Creepy, intriguing, and I'm totally hooked. Next thing I know, I'm in a bathysphere descending into the depths. Eyes wide as the underwater city of Rapture unveiled itself in all its eerie Art Deco glory. In the first 5 minutes, Bioshock managed to spark my curiosity and set my nerves on edge simultaneously. Landing in Rapture, I felt equal parts awe and dread. Right away, you witness a splicer gruesomely attack someone mere feet away from you. Welcome to Rapture. Enjoy your stay. My heart jumped as I grabbed the nearest thing for defense. Hello, trusty Rent. And oh boy, the moment I jabbed that first plasmid into my arm and my character convulsed, I was like, what have I gotten myself into? Early on, Atlas's voice crackles over the radio guiding you. But you just know you can't fully trust anything in this place. Not when you see shadowy figures skittering along the ceiling or a big daddy lumbering in the distance with its ominous groan. The game's opening area masterfully teaches you the ropes while telling a story, and I was drinking it all in, along with maybe a health potion or two. I couldn't put the controller down, partly because I was afraid of what might happen if I did. Bioshock doesn't just start a game, it opens a mystery box under the sea and dares you to dive in. Would you kindly keep playing? Oh, I did. Like my life in Rapture depended on it. So, funny story. The first time I played Dark Souls, I died in under 10 minutes. And you know what? I was hooked. This notoriously hard action RPG, PS3, Xbox 360, begins in the Undead Asylum, and it's not shy about smacking new players around. You start as a nobody in a dank prison cell, and the moment you take control, you can just feel the danger in the air. Sure enough, I waltzed into a big hall, and wham! The Asylum Demon, a boss the size of a house, drops from the sky to say hello, or to smash me into paste more like. I panicked, rolled, got a few hits in with my pathetic broken sword, but ultimately saw the infamous "you died" screen for the first time. Instead of throwing the controller, I found myself grinning. I wanted to hit continue and try again immediately. That's the twisted beauty of Dark Souls opening. It's scary and tough, but oh so intriguing. Once I figured out I was actually supposed to run from that first encounter. Pro tip. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor when you're armed with a toothpick. Things started looking up. I found a real weapon, tasted the sweet victory of felling that demon on a rematch, and then a giant crow whisked me away to the broader world of Lordran. Talk about an upgrade. Going from a dingy asylum to standing at the edge of a vast, interconnected kingdom had my mind racing with equal parts excitement and dread. The game teaches you through failure and subtle hints. A message here, a bloodstain there, and a lot of aha moments that are earned, not given. It was a refreshing change from hand-holding tutorial. By the time I lit the first bonfire, I was equal parts terrified and exhilarated. Dark Souls made me earn every inch of progress from the very start, and oddly, I loved that. It's like the game said, prepare to die, and my brain answered, can't wait to see how. For a lot of gamers, that brutal asylum gauntlet is where the obsession begins. And yep, count me among them. Hard as nails, sure, but impossible to put down once it sinks its teeth into you. Just one more run, and another, and another. Who could resist? Sometimes you just want a game to grab you by the collar and scream, let's do this. Doom 2016 does exactly that. From the moment you wake up as the Doomslayer, it's go time. No drawn-out cutscenes, no gentle tutorial. You literally come to on a slab, immediately crush the skull of a snarling demon, with your bare hands no less, and grab the nearest firearm. I remember laughing in sheer delight at how quickly I was plunged into combat. This FPS on PC, PS4, Xbox One doesn't ease you in. It shoves you into the deep end of demon slaying from second one. Within the first few minutes, I had a shotgun in hand, heavy metal music pumping, and a horde of hell's nasties to blast. Adrenaline? Yeah, Doom's got that by the truckload. What really hooked me was the game's attitude. It's like the developers knew exactly why we were here, and to rip and tear, baby. Case in point, early on a holographic brief starts spouting exposition at you, and Doom Guy just smashes it aside. No time for lore, there are demons to pulverize. I found that hilarious and oddly refreshing. The gameplay felt incredibly fluid right off the bat. I was double jumping and glory-killing demons left and right. The first time I snapped an imp's neck in a spray of pixelated gore, I think I yelled "woo" at my screen. The game taught me through pure action. If a monster hurt me, I figured out fast to hurt it back harder and grab those health pickups. It's a violent feedback loop, and I was instantly hooked on the rhythm of it. By the end of the opening level, my hands were almost shaking from the rush. Doom 2016 managed to modernize a classic and still capture that pure, unfiltered excitement of the original. It hooked into my primal gamer brain. See demon, smash demon, move forward, and it felt awesome. I barely noticed time passing in those first intense moments. When a game makes you feel like an unstoppable force from the get-go, you know you're in for a hell of a good time. Pun absolutely intended. It's hard to overstate how instantly Final Fantasy VII grabs you. Back in 1997 on the original PlayStation, we weren't used to games starting like a Hollywood blockbuster. But Square blew our minds. The intro movie cuts from a peaceful starry sky to the sprawling cyberpunk city of Midgar, then zooms in on a speeding train. Next thing I know, I'm controlling Cloud Strife, an ex-soldier with a giant sword, as he and Avalanche hop off that train and storm a Mako reactor. No tedious slow build, just bam! You're in a battle within the first minute. The fight music pumping. I remember being wide-eyed at the screen. This was a JRPG? Heck yes. I was slicing up Shinra guards and exploring the reactor's depths almost immediately, learning the active time battle system on the fly. The first mission sets the tone with perfect urgency. You plant the bomb, and of course a boss shows up to crash the party. The guard scorpion. This giant mecha scorpion scuttles in, and suddenly I had to actually think about strategy. Don't attack while the tail's up. Pro tip that saved my newbie butt. My heart was pounding as I managed my potions and limit breaks, determined not to let Cloud and Barrett bite the dust. And when we finally beat that thing, boom, the reactor starts to blow, sirens blaring, and a ticking countdown begins. Time to hightail it out of there. I'll never forget the adrenaline of that escape sequence, racing the clock as everything exploded around me. By the time I made it out and watched the reactor go up in flames, I realized I was grinning ear to ear. FF7's opening not only hooked me, it practically sucker punched me with excitement. I had bonded with the characters, Barrett's "come on, newcomer" attitude and all, in mere minutes, and was fully invested in their fight against Shinra. It was the perfect kickoff to an epic adventure. And even today, hearing that bombing mission music gives me happy chills. If a game can dazzle and thrill you like that from the start, you know you've got something special. And FFFs absolutely did. Cue the victory fanfare, I was hooked. The 2018 God of War knows how to set a tone and then shatter it, in the best way. It starts quietly on PS4 with Kratos and his son Atreus preparing a funeral pyre for their beloved wife, Mother. It's somber, grounded, almost gentle, and then bam! A mysterious stranger shows up at their doorstep looking for a fight. And not just any fight, an earth-shattering knockdown, drag-out brawl that had my jaw on the floor. I remember gripping my controller as Kratos punched this tattooed stranger through trees and boulders, and the dude laughed it off. The game basically said, "You want it epic? Here it is." Within the first half hour, 1 minute I was teary-eyed about a family's loss. The next, I was watching two gods literally suplex each other across a mountain. Talk about a hook. What got me was how unexpected it felt. Usually big boss battles are saved for later, but God of War throws you into a showdown with a seemingly invincible opponent right off the bat. It's both a gameplay tutorial and a statement. Kratos is back, and he's not messing around. The controls taught me just enough in those opening moments to survive, but I'll admit I was button mashing like my life depended on it. My heart was pounding as the stranger taunted, "I can't feel any of this." Man, what a way to meet a villain. By the end of that fight, the landscape was literally shattered, and I was practically out of breath. After the dust settled, I paused and realized my hands were trembling from adrenaline. That's how hard God of War's opening hit me, emotionally with the funeral and physically with that insane battle. The contrast was chef's kiss perfect. Once it was over, I just sat back and thought, if that was the intro, I can't imagine what's coming next. Spoiler, the rest of the game absolutely delivers. But it was that opening punch, or dozens of punches, that told me I was in for one heck of a journey. Boy, was I right. Wake up, Mr. Freeman. Those words gave me chills back in 2004, and they still do. Half-Life 2, the legendary PC shooter, pulls you in from the very first frame. You open your eyes on a train heading into City 17. No idea what's going on except that it's not good. The atmosphere is oppressive in the best way. Armed guards barking orders, surveillance drones buzzing around, and you with nothing but the clothes on your back. I remember a guard forcing me to pick up a discarded can just to show who's boss. Instant resentment, instant immersion. I hadn't even fired a shot yet, and I was already hooked on this world. When I finally slipped out of the train station and into the gritty streets, my heart was pounding. Early on, you're fleeing through apartment blocks with civil protection hot on your heels, unarmed, just hoping to survive. I was scrambling up ladders and leaping across rooftops, thinking, please don't let them catch me. It's a masterclass in how to start a game with tension. And oh man, the moment you reunite with Dr. Kleiner and Alex and then the teleport experiment goes haywire, chef's kiss. One minute I'm laughing at Kleiner's pet head crab, the next I'm whacking Combine soldiers with a crowbar I just grabbed, feeling like an action hero. By the time the iconic gravity gun showed up a bit later in the story, I was already in deep. Half-Life 2's opening hour basically says, run now, ask questions later. It drops you into an unsettling sci-fi dystopia and trusts you to find your way. For me, it worked like a charm. I'd have followed Gordon Freeman anywhere after that start. They didn't even need to ask, would you kindly? Wrong game. But you get the idea. Waking up from cryo-sleep to a spaceship under attack? Now that's an attention grabber. Halo, Combat Evolved. The flagship Xbox shooter kicks off by tossing you, the Master Chief, straight into a desperate escape from an alien ambush. I remember the alarms blaring on the Pillar of Autumn as Covenant troops boarded the ship. The captain hands you a pistol and basically says, good luck. No pressure, right? Within minutes, I was ducking plasma fire and scrambling through corridors alongside fellow Marines, feeling simultaneously badass and overwhelmed. It was the kind of intense start that made me sit up and lean forward, totally focused. And the real kicker? That was just the appetizer. The moment that truly sold me was stepping onto the Halo ring for the first time. After the hectic spaceship escape, you crash land in an escape pod on this mysterious ring world, and suddenly the game goes almost quiet. I'll never forget looking up and seeing the Halo itself arching overhead in the sky. It was awe-inspiring, like, whoa, I'm actually on this giant space ring and I can explore it? That sense of scale and wonder hooked me instantly. One minute I'm in claustrophobic hallways, the next I'm driving a warthog over open alien terrain with the Halo theme blaring triumphantly. The contrast was magic. In those early moments, Halo proved it had both thrilling action and an epic world to discover. The game taught me the basics on the fly, tossing grenades, flanking enemies, and I was eating it up. Plus, riding shotgun, literally, with Cortana's witty commentary in my head, made it feel like I had a teammate from the start. By the time I cleared the first Covenant outpost, I was thinking, I could do this all day. Halo grabbed me by the Mjolnir armor and never let go, and I was more than happy to save the galaxy, one plasma grenade at a time. If we're talking bold openings, Mass Effect 2 on PC and Xbox 360 takes the cake. This sci-fi action RPG doesn't just hook you, it blasts you out of the airlock, literally. The game starts aboard the Normandy, your trusty ship from the first Mass Effect, and within minutes things go horribly wrong. An unknown enemy attacks and the Normandy is torn to pieces in space. I remember the absolute shock as I tried to save Joker, the pilot, only to have Commander Shepard, my character, flung into the void. The last thing you see is Shepard suffocating in space as the screen fades. I sat there, controller in hand, heart in my throat, thinking, did they just kill me in the first 10 minutes? Bold move, BioWare. You have my attention. Next thing I know, I'm being revived by a shadowy organization. Hello, Cerberus. And waking up in a science facility under attack. The game essentially says, welcome back. We rebuilt you. Now grab a pistol and fight your way out, and tosses you into combat before you've even fully caught your breath. Talk about pacing. One minute I'm dead, the next I'm blasting hostile mechs and relearning how to toss biotic powers around like a kid on a sugar rush. And it feels good. The shooting is snappy, the action intense, and I'm immediately meeting new intriguing characters, shout out to Jacob and Miranda, while wondering what the heck I just signed up for with Cerberus. What really got me was how invested I felt right off the bat. I was already attached to Shepard from the first game, and Mass Effect 2 brilliantly plays on that attachment. They yanked the rug out from under you to raise the stakes sky high. By the time I finally got a moment to breathe on the Normandy's new deck, I was 100% on board for the ride. Mass Effect 2 basically said, things are gonna get crazy. You in? And my response was a resounding yes, Commander. After an intro like that, how could I say no? Cue the dramatic operatic chanting. Metal Gear Solid, PS1, drops you into stealth action so fast, you barely have time to say, Kept you waiting, huh? The game begins with Solid Snake infiltrating a remote Alaskan base via an underwater insertion. There I was, late 90s me, watching a cinematic codec briefing and feeling like I'd stepped into an action movie. But then it's all up to you. As soon as Snake climbs out of the water, you're in control, sneaking past guards with nothing but a pack of cigarettes and your wits, and maybe a chokehold. I remember crawling under a pipe, the guards' footsteps echoing above, my heart thumping as if I were the one hiding in that cold dock. It was a masterclass in creating tension immediately. One wrong move and those guards would have riddled Snake with bullets. Talk about pressure in the opening minutes. The hook wasn't just the sneaking, it was the whole atmosphere. Snow falling outside, security cameras panning, the music quietly building suspense. I was immersed like never before. Early on, I didn't even have a weapon, which made it even more thrilling to outsmart the enemy. And the game knew how to reward curiosity. I found myself crawling through vents, hearing guards chit-chat about the DARPA chief in the cell, intrigue, and then riding an elevator up to the base's interior while the title theme swelled triumphantly. That moment when Metal Gear Solid flashed on screen as Snake unhooked his scuba gear, goosebumps. I thought, alright, I'm basically James Bond and Rambo combined. Let's do this. By the time I encountered my first boss and heard all the fourth wall-breaking quirks, Psycho Mantis reading my memory card, anyone? I knew this game was something special. Metal Gear Solid's intro managed to be both a tutorial and a thrill ride, teaching me to lurk in shadows and use my brain over brute force. It set the stage for an epic tale of espionage that I couldn't put down. Honestly, after sneaking around in that opening, I was invisible to the idea of stopping. I had to see what came next. Stealth had never been so exhilarating right off the bat. Who would have thought waking up in the middle of nowhere with nothing but your fists could be so enthralling? Minecraft, PC, and eventually every platform out there starts by plopping you into a blocky, beautiful wilderness with zero instructions. No epic cutscene, no urgent mission, just gentle piano music and the sun rising in the sky. I remember my very first minute. I stared at a tree, punched it out of pure curiosity, and suddenly had a block of wood. Okay, now what? I thought. Well, Minecraft wasn't going to hold my hand, and that was the hook. As day turned to night, I learned by doing and by panicking. I hastily dug a tiny shelter into the side of a hill when I heard the first zombie groans echoing in the darkness. Heart pounding, holed up in a dirt bunker the size of a closet, I waited out that first scary night. And you know what? It was amazing. By sunrise, I was determined not to cower in a mud cave again. The game had sparked this fire of creativity and survival instinct in me. I figured out how to craft planks and sticks, threw together a crafting table, and pretty soon I had my first rickety wooden pickaxe. That sense of accomplishment from something so simple was ridiculously rewarding. Every new discovery was a mini hook of its own. Oh, coal for torches so I don't have to live in the dark? Yes, please. Yikes, a creeper blew up my hut. Better build a sturdier house next time? I was learning, adapting, and imagining countless possibilities all at once. Minecraft's genius is that it doesn't look like it's doing much at the start, but it quietly hooks you the moment you wonder, what can I do next? For me, that wonder struck early and never let go. I went from clueless newbie to aspiring architect adventurer in the span of a single in-game day. When a game gives you a whole universe of blocks and says, go play, it's almost impossible not to get sucked in. One tree punch at a time, Minecraft had me. And it wasn't about to let me go explore the real world until I'd built my virtual one. Sorry, real world. You'll just have to wait. Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer Aided Enrichment Center. That soothing, sarcastic AI voice of GLaDOS had me smirking from minute one. Portal, the brilliant puzzle platformer from Valve, I played on PC, hooks you not with explosions or monsters, but with wit and mind-bending gameplay. You literally start in a tiny glass room, a radio playing quirky elevator music, and you're like, what the heck is this place? Moments later, you step through your first portal and see yourself through a hole in reality. Cue the light bulb going off in my brain. It's a simple concept executed so well that I was grinning ear to ear. The game had taught me its core mechanic in seconds, and I was officially intrigued. As I progressed through the early test chambers, GLaDOS kept offering these politely bizarre comments. Please proceed into the chamber lock after completing each test. Cake and grief counseling will be available at the conclusion. Cake? Did she say cake? I was totally on board with this experiment, even as I suspected that famous cake might be a big fat lie. The hook here isn't bombast, it's the sheer cleverness of the puzzles and the dark humor creeping in. By the time I got the full portal gun, blue and orange portals, baby, I was having an absolute blast, figuring out creative ways to fling myself across rooms. I distinctly remember one early puzzle where I had to fall through a portal to gain momentum. Speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out, thanks physics. When I nailed it, I felt like a genius. Portal had me hooked on that feeling of aha discovery. Plus, I just had to know what GLaDOS's deal was. She was too nice, in a totally not nice way. Let's just say by the time the promised cake was maybe on the table, I wasn't going anywhere. After all, in the immortal words of GLaDOS, The cake is a lie, but my love for Portal, 100% truth. Who says a game needs a Michael Bay explosion to hook you? Red Dead Redemption 2 begins with a slow burn. Literally, you're freezing in a blizzard, and it's absolutely gripping. This open-world western, PS4, Xbox One, opens on the run, the Van der Linde gang trudging through knee-deep snow after a heist gone wrong. I swear I could feel the cold through the screen. The wind howls, everyone's shivering and miserable, and I'm instantly drawn in by the atmosphere. It felt like I was plopped right into a classic western film's bleakest chapter. I remember riding with Dutch and Arthur through that storm, lantern light barely cutting the darkness, thinking, well, I'm invested. Is everyone gonna be okay? Even though the pace is unhurried, the tension is high. Early on, you shelter in a mountain cabin and immediately have to deal with hostile O'Driscoll gang members lurking about. That first shootout in the snow had me fumbling with the controls and my revolver in the chaos. It wasn't just an action set piece, it was personal, protecting my gang, my makeshift family, in their most vulnerable moment. And talk about hooks. One of the very first missions has you and Dutch rescuing a near-frozen John Marston from a pack of wolves, stumbling through snowdrifts while fending off snarling wolves with a 6-shooter. I was there. Heart pounding every time those wolf eyes gleamed out of the dark. What really sold me, though, was the sense of camaraderie and storytelling woven into that intro. By the time the snow eased up and the open world of 1899 America revealed itself, I already felt deeply connected to Arthur and the gang. The game taught me the ropes gradually at how to shoot, ride, hunt, but I hardly noticed the tutorial under all that rich narrative. I was too busy role-playing as a desperate outlaw in a snowstorm. Red Dead 2's opening might be chilly, but it gave me the warm satisfaction of, oh yeah, I'm in for a long adventure. I wasn't wrong. And I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, partner. The opening of Resident Evil 4 basically says, hope you're ready, here we go. This survival horror action game, first on GameCube, now on just about every platform, throws you straight into danger. You're Leon S. Kennedy, wandering into a creepy rural village on a mission to rescue the president's daughter, and within minutes the locals are not happy to see you. I recall inching into the first house and being greeted by a very unfriendly villager, who promptly tried to axe me a new haircut. Not a great welcome. Moments later, the whole village seemingly erupts, and I'm like, oh no, there are so many of them. My calm, exploratory mindset switched to fight or flight instantly. That first village battle is now the stuff of legend. I was barricading doors, pushing shelves, jumping out of windows, doing anything to survive the onslaught. My heart was pounding as I frantically tried to land headshots and manage my scant ammo. Then came the sound that still haunts me, a chainsaw revving up. Enter Dr. Salvador, the sack-masked chainsaw maniac. When I first saw him charging at me, I panicked and maybe squealed just a bit. This was the game's way of saying, we're not kidding around. The intensity was off the charts for an opener. And just when I thought it was endless, bong, the village bell tolled and the attackers suddenly halted. Leon, catching his breath, quips, "Where's everyone going? Bingo?" I actually laughed out loud in relief at that line, despite my adrenaline still spiking. In the span of 15 minutes, Resident Evil 4 had scared me, overwhelmed me, and even made me laugh. Talk about a hook. I was completely invested in saving the day after surviving that gauntlet. If the intro was that wild, I knew I was in for one heck of a ride, hopefully with my head still attached. Mario has been around forever, but Super Mario Odyssey proved the old plumber still knows how to kick off an adventure in style. This 3D platformer on Nintendo Switch starts with a bang, or rather, a crash. We find Mario already in over his head, facing off against Bowser aboard an airship, trying to save Princess Peach. It's dark skies, big drama, and Mario loses. Bowser literally smacks him off the ship and even destroys his iconic hat in the process. I remember watching that opening cutscene, mouth open in disbelief. Did Bowser just win the first round? You bet he did. Our hero gets sent tumbling into the spooky Cap Kingdom, hatless and a bit defeated. It's a surprising place to start a Mario game, a monochrome land of ghostly top hats. But within minutes, that classic Nintendo charm kicks in and you're back on your feet. The hook comes when Mario meets Cappy, a shy ghost hat who teams up with him. Not only do you get your trademark red cap back, in a fashion, you gain an awesome new power, capturing enemy, and the game wastes no time showing it off. I'll never forget the first time I threw Cappy at a frog, and poof, suddenly I'm the frog, mustache and all. Mario's eyes bulged. I'm hopping around going ribbit and giggling like a doofus. I thought, okay, this is genius. In the first 10 minutes, Odyssey taught me this wild capture mechanic, and I was already imagining all the possibilities. T-Rex, anyone? The controls felt instantly smooth. The world begged to be explored, and there were fun surprises literally around every corner, like diving into a 2D 8-bit Mario mural. Brilliant. Honestly, I felt like a kid again playing Mario Odyssey's opening. It hit that perfect mix of nostalgia and fresh excitement. The game basically said, Here's something new, have fun, and set me loose to experiment. By the time I left the Cap Kingdom for the next world, I was completely captivated. Mario had me hooked, hat and sinker. You start Skyrim as a prisoner on a cart, and if you're a longtime RPG fan like me, you're thinking, here we go again, another slow intro. Not this time. This open-world RPG, I played on PC, but it's on pretty much every platform, sets the hook early by literally dropping a dragon on your execution day. 1 minute, the Imperial headsman is about to do his grim duty. The next, boom! A dragon crashes down and all heck breaks loose. I remember my jaw hitting the floor as I scrambled to control my brand new character amid fire and chaos. The village of Helgen is burning. People are screaming, and I'm just trying not to get barbecued. It was the most exhilarating bait and switch. Instead of meeting the chopping block, I was suddenly sprinting through a fortress with a massive black dragon, tearing the place apart above me. In those frantic first 15 minutes, Skyrim makes sure you're involved. You're not just watching a dragon attack, you're choosing how to escape, follow the soldier or the rebel, grabbing any weapon you can find and fighting for your life underground. By the time I emerged out of that collapsing cave into the wide open world, I had to take a breath and go, wow, the contrast was stunning, from claustrophobic tunnels to a vast landscape with freedom in every direction. And here's the kicker, that intro is basically the tutorial, but it never feels like one. It feels like a blockbuster opening scene where you are the hero. The moment I saw those snowy mountains and heard the Skyrim theme swelling, I was done for. This world had me. I hadn't even gotten to a town or learned a single dragon shout, yet I was already imagining the adventures to come. Skyrim's beginning doesn't need a long-winded prologue. It quite literally shouts at you with dragon fire to get moving. And trust me, I moved straight into one of the most epic journeys gaming has to offer, all before I ever took an arrow to the knee. Few game intros hit you in the gut like The Last of Us. This story-driven action game on PlayStation wastes no time setting an emotional hook. One moment you're relaxing at home with Joel's daughter, and the next, all hell breaks loose on Outbreak Day. I remember my palms getting sweaty on the controller as I frantically tried to drive them out of the chaos. Cars are crashing, people are panicking, it's absolute mayhem. And just when you think they might make it, well, if you know, you know. That heartbreaking moment in the opening quarter hour had me sitting there in stunned silence. What really grabbed me was how real it all felt. Carrying Sarah through the night, hearing her small voice quiver in fear, I was right there with Joel. Terrified and desperate. As a player, you're not some invincible hero from the get-go. You're a dad, just trying to survive a night gone horribly wrong. The cinematic presentation and raw performances made me forget I was even playing a game. I felt my throat tighten, not gonna lie, and knew immediately that I was emotionally invested. By the time the title flashed on screen, I needed a minute to recover, and I thought, holy smokes, if that's the intro, what's next? The hook was set deep. I absolutely had to see this journey. Sometimes a hook isn't about explosions or drama. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing your very first Pokemon. Back in the late 90s, Pokemon Red and Blue on the classic Game Boy had every kid instantly mesmerized. Myself very much included. The game plops you into Pallet Town as a new wannabe trainer and basically says, it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take one of these. Professor Oak lets you choose Bulbasaur, Squirtle, or Charmander, and let me tell you, that choice felt monumental. I remember agonizing for a good 5 minutes on that selection screen, which might as well have been a life or death decision for 8-year-old me. The moment I finally picked Charmander, sorry, Squirtle, maybe next time, I was all in. Suddenly, I had a little fiery buddy and a big dream to become the Pokemon champion. What happened next sealed the deal. An immediate rival battle. Before I even left the lab, Blue, or Gary, that smug so-and-so, challenges me with his starter. Cue my first ever Pokemon battle. I was frantically trading tackles and scratches, watching those HP bars drop and feeling a rush when my Charmander clinched the win. Stepping out into Route 1 after that, the world felt full of possibility. Tall grass wasn't just grass, it was an adventure lottery. Every rustle was potentially a wild Pidgey or Rattata, and my first chance to catch a new friend, or get walloped if I wasn't careful. There were no voiceovers or fancy cutscenes, but my imagination filled in all the blanks as that jaunty chiptune music played. It was pure, unfiltered adventure. By the time I reached Viridian City, humming the root music all the way, of course, I realized I'd been grinning the entire time. Pokemon's start is humble, but incredibly effective. It gives you a friend, a rival, and a world that begs to be explored. It nails that feeling of wonder from the get-go. Catching my first Pokemon, training up my tiny team, I was hooked long before I ever earned a gym badge. Gotta catch 'em all? You didn't have to tell me twice. I was already on it. And just like that, we've reached the end of the list. Still with me? Good. That means at least one of these games probably swallowed your free time whole at some point. Or hey, maybe you're already hovering over the download button whispering, just one more game. can't hurt? Famous last words, right? Look, games like these are dangerous in the best way. They sneak up on you. One minute you're like, just checking it out, and the next you're emotionally attached to a character you met 20 minutes ago and you've renamed your pet after them. No judgment. We've all been there, multiple times. But now I'm curious, which game hooked you the hardest? Was it a wild intro, a sudden twist, or just the pure, wait, how is it already morning effect? Drop your story in the comments. I live for those accidentally played 7-hour straight confessions. And hey, if this video lured you in faster than a surprise boss fight, consider subscribing. I've got more gaming rabbit holes coming your way. You know, the kind that start with, I'll just watch one video, and end with, oh no, it's 4 a.m. again. Classic. Thanks for hanging out. Now go play something that steals your soul in the best possible way. You deserve it.